Welcome into Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we have got to talk about the latest injury news around the Seattle Seahawks because boy, oh boy, did we finally get some good injury news. It feels like when I've brought up the latest injury reports for the last couple of weeks, it's been negative. Charles Cross can't play. Kobe Bryant's trying to come back, but it doesn't look like he's going to be in a position to do so. Elijah Arroyo's on the injured reserve. Now there's a conversation of Torrey Horton. Will he play this year? Now officially he will be done for the entire year. Finally, I get to come to you and tell you that there is some good injury news, and it's around Elijah Arroyo and Charles Cross. We are going to be breaking down all of that injury news on today's video. But before we dive into Arroyo's news and what it means and what Charles Cross's injury news means, I need your help. Come on in and hit that sub button. Not only are we closing in on 79,000 subscribers, but we're closing in on Dolphins Today. Now, they started to run away. We were within 200 subscribers, and then they had some big news stories break. And look, Rolly and Coop are doing a fantastic job over at that channel, making sure that it continues to grow. I want to do a better job than they are. So come on in, hit that sub button. We always really appreciate it here on the show. And it makes it easier for me to go to the bosses and say, we need to do more Seahawks content, the bigger the channel that we are. All right, so the big news surrounding Elijah Arroyo is he has been designated to return to practice for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he's not officially been put on the active roster at the time of this recording, and frankly, it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense for the Seahawks to do so yet. But getting Arroyo back will absolutely do numbers for this offense, not just in the passing game, but in the running game as well. Arroyo has been out for the last 4 weeks on injured reserve, dealing with a knee injury that, if I remember correctly, he suffered all the way back in that Atlanta Falcons game. Man, it feels like so long ago. Now, when you look at the stats this year for Arroyo, there aren't any numbers that are really going to knock your socks off. Like, nothing's going to jump out and go, wow, he was the best tight end this year. He's got a decent number of targets, 26. His receiving yards is fine, under 200, but not like blowing you out of the water. He came in as a guy who was supposed to be this big receiving target, so you thought maybe he'd take over in the low red zone. A.J. Barner has actually been more so of the low red zone target, so Arroyo really doesn't have any touchdowns this year other than the one. But what Elijah Arroyo does a great job of doing, and we don't fully realize this, is how he opens up what this offense can do. And I don't just mean in the passing game, which we'll get into here in just one moment, but more so in the running game as well. No offense to Eric Saubert. I know that he caught that 2-point conversion to help push the Seahawks to victory over the Rams, but he just can't do certain things that Elijah Arroyo can. And I feel like with the addition of Arroyo and the ability for the Seahawks to go 12 personnel, which means 2 tight ends out on the field, you are going to see more running lanes open up for this rushing attack that's continuing to get better and better every single week. But also you are going to see passing options really emerge for Sam Darnold and force defenses to not commit as much to A.J. Barner or commit as much to Cooper Kupp, who have been those low, medium, short route runners for the Seahawks making big catches. Now, when you look at Arroyo's season so far this year when it comes to getting open in space, this blew my mind. It actually shocked me when I saw it. Now, obviously, this was going in before he ends up getting hurt and missing a lot of time. But he was actually leading the NFL in rookie tight end separation score. What does that mean, Will Ortner? Well, first, let me put my glasses up a little bit higher because it's a big nerd stat. But more importantly, what the separation score means is how much space is Arroyo creating between him and his defender. That means when a linebacker or a safety is guarding Arroyo, is he able to get a couple of inches, a couple of feet, a couple of yards of space to allow an easier throw for Sam Darnold? When you look at that separation score right there, he blows every other tight end out of the water that is a rookie this season. Now, you might say that Loveland and Ferguson and Tyler Warren, Fannin, they might have better numbers when you're looking at the traditional receiving yards, touchdowns, receptions, whole nine, right? But what Arroyo does a great job of is getting open. Seattle just hasn't necessarily done a great job of getting him the football. Now, when it comes to win rate, that is when the ball is thrown Elijah Arroyo's way. How often is he coming down with those catches? Arroyo, he didn't get a lot of opportunities to catch the football, but when he did, he really took it to the next level. When he did get the opportunity, aside from that freak ball that bounced off him and led to an interception in Atlanta, he really made the most of those opportunities. And I think that is important for Seahawks fans to really note. I do want to ask you, though, right now, look into your crystal ball. Will Elijah Arroyo play next week when the Seahawks play their next game in the divisional round? I believe that we will see Arroyo out on the field. And in fact, I think this is the perfect timing, and this is why the bye week was so important for the Seahawks, because it allowed guys who are injured like Arroyo to get a week under their feet, really wet their beak, so to speak. Give them opportunities to practice and get the rust knocked off themselves so they can play at their best abilities. I think that he plays. Let me know down below in the comment section. Does Arroyo play, yes or no? Next, I do have some more Arroyo stats, and yes, they are nerd stats that I think are going to really accentuate the point that I'm trying to make here around Elijah Arroyo. Plus, we're going to talk about Charles Cross and the latest news around him. But first, I got to let you know about my good friends over at Rocket Money. And I've been telling you guys this pretty recently that I've got a couple of vacations planned, and I have actually been using Rocket Money to help me save some money and set some goals so that way I can have the most fun when I have those trips. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has been helping me track some of my subscriptions, and you know what? We found out that I was actually double paying for a couple of streaming services. That's unnecessary. That's unneeded. So Rocket Money helped me cancel those extra subscriptions and save some money. I was actually already able to put some money away for those trips that I am going to take in the summer. Now, it's not quite enough money yet for me to be fully comfortable on that trip, so Rocket Money is helping me budget for my vacation as well. Each month, we are setting spending goals for myself, and so I can save a little bit of extra money on the side in preparation for that trip in the summer. Really excited to get back to Washington State. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for helping me out there. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/SeahawksChat. That's rocketmoney.com/SeahawksChat. rocketmoney.com/SeahawksChat. Shout out to Rocket Money, man. Really excited to get back to my home state later on this summer. So what the Seahawks have looked like this year with Elijah Arroyo on the field. Right now, they're 8th in EPA per play. What does that mean? That means that the Seahawks are actually getting more yards than most teams on average are when Arroyo's out on the field. When Arroyo's been on the field, their passing game is getting more yards because opposing defenses are sucking into Arroyo. They're focusing just a little bit more, and that allows JSN to get more one-on-one opportunities, allows Cooper Kupp to get more one-on-one opportunities. It stops opposing defenses from being able to blitz Sam Darnold, making life easier for him in the passing game. When he's out on the field, Seattle has done a fantastic job of getting success and making sure that they finish their plays strongly. When Arroyo has been on the field, just the different things that he can add to this team in the running game, because he's a great blocker, and in the passing game, because he gets open, have been huge. Now, the last couple of weeks, I've been really complaining about what the Seahawks offense has looked like, and that's because they have been without Elijah Arroyo. Now, I don't want to sit here and say that Arroyo is the end-all, be-all, and the reason why those numbers have gone so much further down is because of Arroyo, but he certainly plays a role. Teams clearly don't respect Eric Saubert as much as they respect Elijah Arroyo in the passing game. So teams are not putting safeties or faster linebackers on him like they would Arroyo. That allows them to add more people into the box or double more of our wide receivers. When it comes to the run game, it's clear teams do not respect this Seahawks rushing attack as much as when Elijah Arroyo is out there, because Arroyo's able to just frankly get to blocks that Saubert cannot yet. This isn't an attack on Eric Saubert. This is just me pointing out the fact of how good of a player Elijah Arroyo is. And while when we look at the base numbers for him, they are a little bit less than what we wanted, it's still important to note just how much he affects the game on the things that we don't quite see. So getting Elijah Arroyo back out at practice with a good shot to be able to play on next week, I'm pretty darn excited about that. The next piece of good news, Charles Cross was back out at practice, and I've never seen someone so happy, smiling so much to practice in a big rainstorm than Charles Cross was. As we look at Cross this season, he's had a pretty darn good year. He's missed the last couple of weeks, obviously dealing with that hamstring injury. In fact, he didn't even have a real chance at playing against the Rams or the Panthers. Was hopeful that he would get to play against the 49ers, ended up not being able to play there. So now we finally get to see the Seahawks offensive line back at its entirety, completely full, just like we were hoping that they would be. So to see the offensive line back to where it was at the start of the year is immensely huge for this team, because we've seen how well this offensive line has been really gelling together, and they've been doing that largely with backups at different positions. Olu Oluwatimi had to get time with Jalen Sundell out. We obviously had a little bit of a scare there with Gray Zabel. He ended up not really missing a ton of time, but there was a little bit of Christian Haynes play for a drive or two against the Rams in the first one. And then Charles Cross has actually missed significant time, not playing in the last 3 games. If this Seahawks offensive line can play the way that we have seen them all individually play at different points, I'm pretty darn excited. Charles Cross is only going to make this rushing attack stronger, and that's a rushing attack that we saw just run all over the Los Angeles Rams, the Carolina Panthers, and the San Francisco 49ers. What do those 3 teams have in common? They're all freaking playoff teams, and the Seahawks were doing that with a backup tackle. Now, I'm not here to say that Josh Jones is a bad tackle. No, Charles Cross is a better tackle. There's a reason why we just signed him to that big contract extension, and he's earned every freaking dollar. This run game is going to get better because we will have our best 5 players out on the field that have the most chemistry with themselves in that offensive line room because they've been playing together as a unit for so long. Charles Cross returning and Elijah Arroyo returning is the best news that the Seahawks could have hoped for this week because you couldn't win a game. So getting as many players back as possible, that was the best news you could hope for. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that I'm going to be giving you a good news update on Kobe Bryant here soon. The Seahawks got the best news of the week. Let me know if you agree with that statement or disagree with that statement down below in the comment section. If you disagree with that statement, you better have an ironclad reason why you disagree. Cite your sources, MLA format. Like I told you, hit that sub button. Help us reel in Dolphins today. They're starting to try and run away with it. Let them know that the PNW is better than the 503 or whatever, 305. What is his name? Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide. Let them know that we're better than those guys. Come on in, hit that sub button if you love the Seattle Seahawks. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time.